Hey guys and gals, hopefully this video finds everybody doing okay. So we've got the buck. We've got the buck for the windshield for Ecto-1 printed. And I woke up the other morning. So I've got a plan A and I've got a plan B. Plan B is, you know, traditional, we'll use the buck and we'll just vacuum form a windshield for the sucker. But I thought, not everybody's got a vacuum former, not everybody wants to build a vacuum former. One Old Monster has a tutorial. You know, you can use, you know, a Coke bottle. Cut up a Coke bottle, like a 2-liter, and you can use that plastic and a heat gun to kind of mold it down and over. But I thought, well, there might be another product that might work for this. So I thought, Shrinky Dinks. So we went to Hobby Lobby and I found, a 6-pack of Shrinky Dink shrink film for $5.99. We're gonna give this a shot. What is there to lose? Have I done homework on this? No, couldn't be bothered. Figured I'd just reinvent the wheel. So if it works, cool. If it doesn't, well, okay, then we know. And then you know, because you get to see my failure doing it. Shrinky Dinks, for those that don't know, you know, typically you see a lot of like kids arts and crafts sets that come with it. It's basically like a clear film, and as you can draw on it, you can do whatever art, and then you can cut out your shape, but you do it extra big, and then you throw it in the oven and you bake it, and then it tends to shrink, and as it shrinks it gets slightly more dense, and then you can have like a keychain or yada yada. So it's really neat for that sort of thing. These are all 8.5 by 11 sheets, and we're just gonna lay one out over the windshield. I think that should be theoretically more than enough to take into account for shrinkage, and theoretically it should thicken up a little bit and we should still maintain optical clarity. There's a lot of shoulds in that statement. Let me reset the camera. Let's see if those shoulds pan out. Cheers. So each one of these sheets of film is not super thick. It kind of has the thickness and consistency of like the same kind of plastic you would use for an overhead projector. For those of you that know what an overhead projector is, I don't know if they use them anymore. But we're just gonna lay this sucker right down over the top. I think we're gonna go diagonal corner to corner on this. That should give us just enough room, because an 8.5 by 11, that comes in really close at the edges, and I know it's gonna shrink. So let's do this. Let's see if we can get it to concave out, and I'm just using a standard Milwaukee heat gun. We're going to crank it on high, and let's just see what it does. Ooh, there it starts to go. Ooh. All right, let's let's call trial 1 a failure. Let's reapproach this here in a second. I'm going to reset with a fresh sheet, and we're going to try taping things down to kind of help hold things in place. Okay. Trial 2. We've laid the film over, and I've just used blue painter's tape to tape the corners down. Yeah, that's working out real well. We may end up having to use some stronger tape, or just use more tape. More is always better. Let's see if we can just. And the goal is not to paste it down, but just enough to kind of hold it in place. And then I'm going to do like I did with a vacuum former, and we'll do like we're doing hot plastic. And this time I think let's run it on low so we can kind of control the speed a little bit, because that just got out of hand way too quick. Let's just see if we can get it to kind of drip down. There it goes. Yes. Yes. Smooth out. Smooth out. So what I'm doing is I'm actually watching it shrink and curve, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm working it really even towards the edges of the buck. Oh no! All right, phase 2 is a no-go. It straight up blew through and separated right there. That's a bummer because it was curving really nicely. I tell you what, just for grins, I'm gonna finish off to the other side, and at least that way it's not a total waste. I'm still getting a feel for it, and let's just see what it does, see if we can continue to use it. So the goal is to watch it, and you can kind of watch the reflections in it, so you can watch it starting to shrink, watch it starting to do its thing, but don't stay in any one spot for any length of time, otherwise it's going to get too hot and it's just going to melt the film. Tentatively, I would say this is potentially a really good option. For doing windshields. And there again, leather gloves because they're smooth. You're not going to leave any texture in the hot plastic. Not that it seems to be getting too awful melty. I think as long as you don't get stupid with it like I did over here.
I don't wanna do anything to myself to you. I don't wanna be something.
Well, let's see what we got here. Yeah, I think in a pinch, that is totally serviceable as a windshield. It's stiffer. I mean, it's got some flex to it. It's certainly not totally rigid, but it's got enough of a lip on it that you can trim that out, and theoretically it should fit. So we're going to line up a third test sheet, see if we can do it without putting a hole in the middle of it. But I think before I do that, I'm going to take the time to take a pair of scissors, trim out the edge of this sucker, and do a test fit on Ecto, see how good it fits. Okay, try 3. Try 2 came out pretty decent. For a loose dry fit into Ecto-1's windshield, it did fit. Optical clarity is totally passable. Obviously, my big hole in the middle is not all that great. The other thing that I found that was a little difficult was, you know, we do have an undercut on the mold, or on the buck, excuse me, on the left and right sides, but front and back there isn't a lot of one. I think for phase 3, what I'll do is I'll go through with a permanent marker, and once I've got it, hopefully, smoothed down onto the buck, before I cut, I'll go through and I'll mark a black line. That's something I really should have thought to do the first time through. But hey, we're all learning together here. So we're all taped up. Back on with the glove we go. There again, the buck itself printed in ABS. If you did this with PLA, you'd have one heck of a mess on your hands. So ideally, PET G or ABS would be ideal for this use case scenario. And two setting heat gun. Don't use high, use low. Keep your distance. Ideally, I'm trying to maintain, from this camera angle, you can't really see. I'm trying to maintain about 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches between the heat head, and I'm not trying to stay in one place overly long. No, I'm losing the bottom corner. Dang it. No, it's just. All right, I'm not going to bother shrinking anymore because I'd like to try and salvage this piece over here because we've only got 6 pieces of this to work with. What happened is, there's a reason why they call it shrinky dinks. And even taping it on diagonal, we hit this corner just a little bit too strong and it pulled too high and up off the edge of the buck. So we'll reset. We'll try this again for 4. Okay, try number 4. So because we're taking an 8.5 by 11 and we're turning it diagonal and going corner to corner, what I did this time versus just run one long piece of tape underneath was I taped down that first corner on the side, trying to make sure that the amount of plastic gap from the top edge of the buck to the edge of the film was even on both sides, then rotated and kind of twisted this side around until I had the same, got it taped down underneath, and then the top 2 corners can just get taped up underneath. I think this time I'm going to go back to like how I did it the first semi-successful run, and we're going to start in the middle, and then we'll slowly work our way out one direction and then work our way out the other direction. Let's see if it works. Don't you dare. So I think the trick with the corners when you get to them is to physically mash that plastic down. Don't give it the opportunity to curl up on you. You got to stay on top of it. And your goal is not to shrink it as far as it can possibly go. Your goal is just to hold it in place and get it to take the damn form. Oh, the dang form. Ha! Not bad. Well, we got about 90% of the way there. But that's the corner. That's why I'm saying make sure you keep that, you really put pressure on the excess material, press it down against the mold, try and keep it pinched, and so that way as you're hitting it, it doesn't have the opportunity to roll up and curl up on you, because it will. It's not terribly predictable on what it'll do. It kind of is, it kind of isn't. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead, mark my permanent marker, and see if we can trim out along that line and see how it fits. All right, we're going to move on to try number 5. But this is, I think, totally going to be viable. The buck, if anything, I think is just a hair big. It's close, but it gives you a little wiggle room to be able to kind of trim and dial things in. But you've got a really nice compound curve right there. And I think that is totally serviceable as a windshield. Bear in mind, it's a little grubby, cleaned up with a little bit of Windex. I would recommend putting a paper towel down or a soft cloth. That way you're not just scuffing the hell out of it while you're working it or while you're taping it onto the model. But a little bit of Dremel sanding wheel work around the edge and you would be in really good shape. And you can see here where it kind of wants to squish up a little bit. That's why I'm saying you could definitely, it has room for improvement for trimming around the edges. I was so close on this one had it not been for that roll up. So the trick is to fold it, tape it at the corners once you've turned it diagonal. Make sure you have equal material at top and bottom from the mold. So hang on, let's grab an extra sheet here. I'd recommend buying 2 of these 6-packs because even though you may be learning from watching me, so you can see that spacing there once we've turned the sheet sideways. God, this is hard with a sheet. And that spacing there, you want to try and make sure that that's even, and then fold that corner over, tape it, and then come back over to the other side and twist it and turn it however you need in order to make sure that that spacing there and that spacing there are even. You want to fold it over and tape it. Then this corner can just be folded under and taped. This fold corner here can be folded under and taped. And then what you want to do is you want to start your heat dead center. You want to not stay in one spot too long, otherwise it'll melt. You don't want to focus on or get sidetracked on trying to get it melted all the way till it won't melt anymore. The goal is just to get it to get nice and smooth over the buck. You want to work from the middle to the top, the middle to the bottom, then slowly work your way out. And then when you're getting towards the corners, you want to make sure that you come in with your gloves. You want to bend it over and hold it tight, and that way you're only heat gunning really what's right there on the lens, and then you can come back at it from the sides and kind of shrink it up a little bit. So we'll set up and we'll give this a shot for try number 5, but it's looking promising. You know what this feels like? This feels like how guys wrap birthday and Christmas presents. Or at least how I do. think that we may have gotten it. Let's try going and sneaking a razor knife. So the only thing I'm doing right now is I'm not trying to trim on the line. What I'm trying to do is just undercut and get these pieces on the end, or at least on one end. At a break point, just like that. So you can, and shit. Hey. So, will it work? Tentatively, yeah, it'll get the job done. I'd certainly need to sit with a Dremel sanding wheel and kind of clean up corners, and you can slowly dial it in to where it fits and it works. If you're in a pinch and you want to do it on the cheap, yeah, I think that this would work. I would certainly recommend buying at least 2 of these 6-packs. I basically got it on the 5th try. Now that being said, I have a handful of pieces that I can salvage to make other windows with, but I'll have to have another case of it. Plan A. So look, never tried it before. I think it works. Let me show you the results. Give me a second and I'll come back and flip the video. So you certainly end up with the compound curve. You know, the thing that I notice is that if you run it too hot, it tends to thicken up too much and then it crystallizes. It gets really brittle. But you do get that curve. I think the thing that I don't like is that even smoothing it down over the buck, it's still not just a really nice, smooth windshield. And given that the buck has been sanded and given the fact that I worked it by hand, I think the tendency to blow through it is a little high. Is it one of those things that you could practice a whole bunch with and probably get really good with? Yeah, I think so. Density-wise, I think realistically, I think it's the same density you're going to get out of cutting a 2-liter bottle apart. So whether you go this route or go for a 2-liter bottle, which is cheaper, and you get to drink the pop inside, I would probably go that route over going this route. But hey, you don't know until you learn. For me, in the meantime, I think I'm going to stick with this plan A for now, because it's what I've got. But nothing's going to get glued in permanently. I think we'll find temporary ways to tack it in until the new vacuformer comes in, and then I think we'll vacuform this out of something a little bit thicker and a little sturdier, simply because at 250% scale, this model deserves that extra little bit of effort. I really don't want to half-ass it here. On a 100% scale model, yeah, I totally think you could get away with this. Bear in mind too that, you know, it may look, you know, squeezy and poppy the way it is now, but it does pop right back to its form. And if it were, you know, glued in the entire way around and you had taken your time to slowly work it in to where it fit really nicely and then go through and glue it in, you're going to gain that rigidity back. So it's not going to be quite so flimsy as just a set in place test piece. But yeah, take from that what you will. I feel like it wasn't a total failure, and it was a reasonable success, minus that crack. It gets a little fragile as you're removing it from the buck, and so you just need to take your time and be patient with it. You know, something like that for now. I think it's something we can hide with a little windshield wiper or some trick. And given the fact that I've decided this is pretty well temporary, that's probably what we'll do. I think I'll count that as a win. So cheers. Hopefully this helps somebody out there. And in the meantime, you know, we've got the hood on, we've got the doors on, and we've got a decent chunk of the roof rack done. Had a couple pieces break, so we're gonna in the process of removing supports, but otherwise the print came out really nice and clean. So we'll be going through and cleaning those up. We've got some of the interior in and mocked up. So we'll be doing some cleanup on them and getting them painted and prepped. So project's coming right along. We're getting there slowly but surely. So that's where we're at. It's late. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to bed. Hopefully everybody else has a great night or great day whenever you watch this movie. And thanks for tuning in. And hit the like button. I'd appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that even more. Hit the bell for notifications. That would be awesome. You guys know the drill. It's YouTube. Everybody asks you to do it. It takes minimal effort. Hopefully, if you've enjoyed what I've cranked out so far, and if you want to see more, those are the 3 things that help me out, motivate me, and keep us cranking out content. But keep your eyes peeled and keep your ear tuned for the bell, and you'll see the next update when I can push it out. Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.